Hi everyone, welcome to video 3.2. We are going to be talking about using a Marxist lens today, and our objective is that you will be able to read chapter 2 and analyze the book of Mice and Men using a Marxist lens. So let's talk about what the heck that means. Today we're going to be talking about literary theories, and this is also known as critical lenses. So you can think about a critical lens as putting on a pair of glasses and it impacts the way that you see the world. So imagine that you put on these pair of glasses that have purple tinted shades, and it changes the way everything looks, right? Things are going to appear purple, and you're going to notice different things because you're wearing these glasses. So that is another way to think about literary lenses. They're also called literary theories, and it's a different way of looking at the deeper meaning in literature. Literary lenses are like glasses because they change the way that we see things in the text. So they change the things that we're going to notice when we read. It changes the questions we're going to ask and the things that we're going to see from the text. There are hundreds of different literary theories and critical lenses. I took a couple different classes in college that were dedicated just to literary theories. So we could spend literally all year talking about this. But we are only going to be focusing on 3 critical lenses, 3 literary theories in this unit. And today in this video, we are only focusing on 1. And we're going to start with learning about the literary lens of Marxism, or the Marxist lens. So you've probably heard this term, Marxist or Marxism, before. It was founded by a man named Karl Marx. He lived in the 1800s, 1818 to 1883. He was a German scholar, and he came up with a theory about money and power. So he studied who had money and how that impacted the amount of power that they had in society. So Marx studied capitalism, and he thought that the system of capitalism was unfair because the people doing all the hard work don't actually benefit from the work that they're doing, and they're treated unfairly in this system. So the Marxist theory is a lens of social class and social power. We are going to be thinking about who has money and who has power based on this lens. Karl Marx categorized society into 3 classes of people. So the first, the baseline lower class in society, he called the proletariat. So this is like the normal folks. It's working class people, people that work 9 to 5s. Maybe they have 2 jobs to make ends meet. They live paycheck to paycheck, don't necessarily have anything fancy. So this is the majority of people in society, right? Working class, everyday people. Then we have this second middle class called the bourgeois. This is rich people. They have nice jobs, well-paying jobs. They can afford fancier things. They can go on nice vacations, things like that. Marx came up with this top class and called it the aristocracy. So this is powerful and rich people who have influence and power in society. You can think of politicians, celebrities, influencers, business executives. These are the people that are like making millions and also have a lot of power and influence over people around them. So a fun fact is that this word bougie, that you've probably heard before to mean that someone is kind of classy or kind of fancy. You probably know the Migos song, Bad and Bougie. This word bougie actually comes from the Marxist social class of the bourgeois. So bourgeois, remember, that's like rich people. So this is your little fun fact of the day. So some key ideas of Marxism that we are going to be looking at. He said that we must pay attention to the material conditions of life in order to achieve positive social change. So he meant material conditions. He meant like the things that you actually own based on how much money you have. So like, how nice of a car can you afford? How big of a house do you live in? Do you have fancy clothes and fancy shoes? Do you have the newest iPhone? And he said that being aware of these kind of material conditions is what allows the lower class to look around and say, hey, this isn't fair. I'm working really hard and I can't afford these nice things that my bosses have. And this is what leads to people in the lower class actually revolting against the higher class or their bosses. Marx also believed that this class structure is built on the oppression of workers. So oppression, remember, that's like taking advantage of, treating unfairly or unjustly. He believed that the working class people are being oppressed. So they're not getting paid fairly. They're not having benefits at work like health care that they need or time off that they need. And they're not actually benefiting from the work that they are doing. Because of this, Marx believed that the classes are always in conflict, and eventually the proletariat, or the lower class, will revolt, will fight back, and will try and take some of that power and influence back for themselves. So if you think about this class conflict or the revolution of the proletariat, let's look at some actual examples, some local examples of class revolts. So when you think about the proletariat or the lower class revolting, a lot of times this is seen in the form of strikes, like labor strikes. So workers will go on strike, which means they're not going to work anymore. And this shuts the entire system down, and it makes the bosses come to the table to negotiate with them and hopefully give them what they're fighting for, like fair wages or better work conditions. So I don't know if you heard, but last year the Minneapolis public school teachers went on strike. So they shut the entire school system down in Minneapolis, and they were fighting for fairer wages, better pay, better work conditions, more mental health supports, and things like that. We also have the nurses going on strike. So this sign, you see more nurses, less millionaire execs. So this is that exact class conflict that Marx is talking about, that the people, the working class, the nurses, the teachers, they're fighting back against the fact that these millionaire executives are making all the money and the working class people aren't getting the benefits that they deserve. So some central questions to think about with Marxism are who has the power? So when you read chapter 2, who has the power on this ranch that George and Lenny are going to work on? Who benefits the most if the work is successful or the effort is accepted? So when the ranch is doing really well, do George and Lenny get more money, or does the boss get more money? Which class does the work claim to represent? So are the owners or the bosses, are they giving credit to the workers, or are they taking all the credit for themselves? And what values does it reinforce? So what is it saying, like, this is a good thing? And what values does it subvert or bring down in the process? All right, so make sure you have some of these questions taken down in your notes in the packet. And then our final thing we're looking at is what would happen if Marx came to Cooper? So I want you to apply these 3 social categories: the proletariat, the lower class, the bourgeois, the middle rich class, and the aristocracy, the very powerful, influential class. Who would you put into these 3 categories at Cooper? So we have so many different roles and people that are involved in our school community, with students, teachers, administration, cafeteria workers, bus drivers, etc. You're going to choose 3 groups. So maybe you want to choose like the freshmen. Are the freshmen the proletariat, the lowest class? Why would they be in that social position? So who would be the middle class and who would be the top class? I want you to go ahead and fill this out in your notes and then start reading chapter 2 and think about these questions of power and influence and money as you are reading chapter 2.